Well, it's Friday night, and you know what that means. It is time for If You Smell What the Arch is Cooking. I'm your host, Archie Mitchell, and once again, it feels like it's been weeks since I talked to you guys when it's actually only been 7 days. And we have got a lot to talk about tonight. We have got quite a bit of quick hits, four in total, and they are big ones. We also have three different shows to review: AEW Rampage, WWE NXT 2.0. That's right, the revamp happened this week, and AEW Dynamite. Um, so before we get into them, though, I would like to let you guys know that next week's show there will not be any show review. I am calling this the If You Smell What the Arch is Cooking State of the Wrestling Address. What I mean by state of wrestling address is I'm going to speak about a few different topics that I find near and dear to my heart and how I feel that they are currently going in the world of professional wrestling and what needs to be done in order to change them. So, anyone who will be logging in to WrestleNet Radio next week and expecting to hear about NXT and AEW, I apologize, but I promise you it will be a very entertaining show. So, it is now time to crack open your favorite frosty beverage and dive with me into some quick hits. Number one, Brock Lesnar returned this past Friday night to SmackDown and proved why he is the beast. During the opening segment of SmackDown, Roman Reigns was addressing the audience when Brock Lesnar popped up, took out Paul Heyman, took out Roman Reigns, and took out Jay and Jimmy Uso in beast-like fashion. Although Roman almost got the better of Brock, Brock Lesnar proved that he's still a badass. Now, I know I give Brock and a lot of these other part-timers a hard time about doing these pop-ins, but Brock Lesnar, having just returned, the allure is there again. The fanciness, the funness, the new car smell, if you will, is there again. And seeing Brock doing what he did this past Friday night on SmackDown was great. And it showed up in the ratings because SmackDown did another killer rating. I believe it was a 2.6 in the Nielsen ratings, which is fantastic for them. I hope that it continues. And I enjoyed seeing him destroy the head of the table, the tribal chief. I enjoyed him trying to cause a little bit of friction between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns by asking Paul why he didn't let Roman know that he was at SummerSlam, and then telling Paul Heyman to make the match between Brock and Roman just before he got fired by Roman Reigns. So it's good to see Brock back. I don't know for how long, but we know that Extreme Rules, it'll be Roman Reigns taking on the Demon Finn Balor. So I'm guessing Brock and Roman will be saved until Survivor Series, which I'm okay with. Number two, Edge and Seth Rollins, again on SmackDown this past Friday. They were given 35 minutes in Madison Square Garden to continue their story, and that's exactly what they did. The match was incredible. It was almost like an old guard facing a new guard. A little bit of torch passing, a lot of fighting for staying alive for Edge. Rollins looked sadistic in every way, shape, or form. Edge looked like himself again, the Edge that we knew 10 years ago. It was such an incredible matchup. And like I said, they were given 35 minutes. The MSG crowd was behind both men the whole way. And when Rollins finally delivered the stomp, pinned Edge, and then we saw Edge laid out in the middle of the ring to tell the story that he may quite possibly have been injured, it drove a point home that Rollins was willing to do anything to stop Edge. Edge was willing to do anything to stop Rollins. And now, with them being tied at one win apiece, we go to the rubber match whenever that's going to be. I'm sure they're going to give Edge some time to heal. But whatever the case may be, I salute both of them for doing a fantastic job this past Friday night on SmackDown. Number 3, Samoa Joe vacated the NXT title this past Monday night because of injuries. I don't think so. Samoa Joe hasn't had a match since NXT Takeover when he won the title. He didn't look like he was limping or in any problems, and then he showed up at the next few NXTs without any slurred speech or any problems of looking dizzy or like he was having anything going on. I have a strange feeling that this title was taken off of Samoa Joe in an effort to make the new NXT seem like it was a total revamp from the very beginning. I mean, we only had the NXT title match on NXT. We'll get to that in a minute. The women's title match was actually canceled Tuesday morning between Raquel and Frankie Monet. The tag team titles were not on the line. The North American title was on the line. The Cruiserweight title was on the line. Yes, these matches were made for these belts later on during NXT, and we'll get to them. We'll get to that in just a minute, I promise. But I think this was done to take away the old feeling of NXT with Samoa Joe holding the gold and giving it to whoever the new champion would be at the ending of NXT 2.0 this past Tuesday. I don't like it. Titles should be actually won and not stripped and then given away to someone else. I think that it would have been much better to allow the Fatal 4-Way to happen and then let whoever won it beat Samoa Joe, and that's how you get to your new champion. But it's Vince McMahon, and it is what it is. All I am going to say is if Joe is legitimately injured, I wish him, a quick recovery. And I do hope that this does not lead to another WWE release for him, because there's nowhere else for him to go in the WWE. Last time he was released, he went back to NXT. So if Joe is released, I'll be excited to see him back in Impact or in AEW. Whatever the case may be, though, I think this stinks of a Vince McMahon screw job in one way or another. And finally, our fourth and final quick hit, and I'm going to take a swig of my drink before we get into it because it's a toast. And new WWE World Heavyweight Champion Big E cashes in on Monday Night Raw and beats Bobby Lashley after he had a 20-minute match with Randy Orton for the title. Big E cashes in, dwarfs Lashley. Bobby Lashley had a great title run. He defended the belt against any and everybody. And I have to say, seeing Big E cash in was great. Same way it was when Kofi won the title. You look at a guy who's been in the company for 8-10 years, and finally getting his just due. I think Big E is a great physical specimen, a great athlete, and someone that the WWE can count on. I'm just hoping that they actually let him have a decent title run and that he does not have to lose it in 40 seconds to a Brock Lesnar or a returning Goldberg. It's just my fear when it comes to them giving these guys the belts like this. Kofi won it at WrestleMania, 6-month title reign. We all thought it was great. Lost to Lesnar. The Fiend won the NXT, the Universal title, had a couple-month reign, loses it to Goldberg. These things are just not making sense lately over the last 2 years. And I know our world is in a really corrupt place, so nothing makes sense. But wrestling is supposed to be the one constant. And it just seems to me that Vince McMahon and his whole new hoopla that he's putting down isn't allowing it to still be the same constant that we remember when we were children. In any indication, though, I'm sorry for getting off on a bit of a tangent. Congratulations to Big E. Here is to a great, long, and well-deserved title run for you, big man. Now, moving on to our first show review, it is AEW Rampage. It happened last Friday night, and our opening contest is Pac versus Andrade El Idolo. Incredible matchup, I must say, and I was so happy to see that these two were putting on first. Why? Because, well, you want to get your crowd jumping. First few minutes of this one was really a stalemate, though. They were going back and forth with rest holds and arm locks. They went move for move and hold for hold. Pac finally broke out when he hit a diving plancha to the outside on Andrade, and he gained and maintained control. Andrade rebounded with a DDT to the outside and on the apron, delivering Pac head first. Andrade brought Pac back into the ring and can only get a quick 2 count. Andrade hit a double stomp from the top rope to the outside with Pac laying in the tree of woe. It was hellacious looking, ladies and gentlemen. It looked like he almost snapped Pac's head straight off his shoulders. The end saw a distraction allow Chavo Guerrero to nail Pac from behind. The referee was trying to get Andrade's lawyer off the apron. Andrade picks up the win at the 20-minute mark. Really good opener, and hope this feud isn't over. After the match, Andrade hit Chavo when he found out that Chavo got interfered in the match, and that it seems like Chavo's been lying to him this whole time. Andrade leaves Chavo laying. Lucha Bros brought Chavo back into the ring, and Pac put him in a submission move, that Rings of Saturn. Chavo screaming, the referee trying to get him off, and finally let go and left Chavo laying alone in the ring. Is the partnership between Andrade and Chavo over already? Are we about to possibly see Ric Flair join AEW and become the manager of Andrade? Never know, I guess. Got to wait and see. Darby Allin and Sting come out to have an interview with Tony Schiavone. Darby speaks about being called out by Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard. And Darby says Shawn Spears is a generic piece of shit. And Sting tells Tully Blanchard he's always rode on people's coattails like Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Sting says, why wait until Dynamite? And Tully Blanchard comes out like he was waiting for Sting to say his name. Tully distracts Sting long enough for Spears to attack Allin. And I think I'm going to like where this is going. Tully Blanchard, a phenomenal speaker and still one of the best. Great manager with FTR and Shawn Spears. Sting and Darby Allin are always phenomenal, whether it be in a tag team match or just Sting being in Darby's corner. So we know that now on Dynamite, we will see Shawn Spears take on Darby Allin. We'll know what happens in just a bit. We then hear pre-recorded comments from Adam Cole. Cole says he trusts the Elite and they trust him. He says Bryan Danielson is special, but not special enough to be Elite. Danielson then has his pre-recorded promo, says the Elite dress like clowns and he wants Omega one-on-one. But if not, he'll take anyone else. He just wants to get back in the ring. Very interesting to hear Cole mention Bryan in all of this. And then Bryan mentioning that he only wants Omega one-on-one. If not, though, he'll go through the entire Elite squad if need be. So I don't know if we're leading towards, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, or if Bryan Danielson is going to run the Elite Gauntlet. We have to wait and see. In any case, I just want to see Bryan Danielson back in the ring. It's been since WrestleMania since we haven't seen him. We then go to our 6-woman tag, and it is Britt Baker, Rebel, and Jamie Hayter taking on Ruby Soho, Riho, and Chris Statlander. Riho and Britt start off, and the champion transitions from an arm lock to a headlock to a pin attempt. Whoever reverses Baker and hits Riho then reverses Britt Baker. Allow me to say that again. Riho reverses Britt Baker and hits a power slam, and in comes Rebel and Statlander. Riho and Statlander double team a stomp onto Rebel, and this gets a 2 count. Jamie Hayter comes in and uses a snap suplex and puts Riho down. The match breaks down with 4 of the ladies on the outside and leaving Ruby Soho and Rebel on the inside. Ruby lays into Rebel with her Pele kick and picks up the win in 15 minutes. All 6 women were highlighted perfectly in this matchup. Sorry for getting so tongue-tied there, but just a lot going on all at once. Mark Henry then talks to Max Caster and Brian Pillman Jr. ahead of their main event match. Both youngsters seem ready, and so are we. Great to see Brian Pillman Jr. and Max Caster in the main event, in my opinion. Hard-hitting action from bell to bell. Caster tried to keep Pillman grounded, using his size and strength. Caster used a power slam followed by a headlock takedown. Caster had control, but made the mistake and went to the top. Missed the splash. Pillman went to the top himself and hit a huge looking clothesline, just like his dad used to. Made the cover and got the win in the 7-minute mark. Amazing main event. After the match, the Acclaim tried to take apart Pillman, but John Moxley made the save and celebrated with Pillman. Two Ohio boys celebrating in the middle of the AEW ring. Another week and another good show from AEW Rampage. Now, this is just my opinion, but I think AEW Rampage is doing all they can to highlight from the top of the card to the bottom of it. It's not to say that Max Caster and Brian Pillman Jr. are the bottom of the card, but what I am saying is that they are still young and coming up the card as they, the days progress. Hearing from, guys in the mid card and newcomers like Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, seeing the women in that 6-woman trios match, and then the opener with Pac and Andrade. Very well done by AEW and Rampage once again for the 4th week in a row. And now we come to what I thought was going to be the dark part of the show, because it is now time for NXT 2.0. Yeah. The color scheme has changed. The arena has changed. There is no more cages around the fans. But okay, show opens up with the announcers explaining Samoa Joe had to vacate the title, and we find out that it will now be a fatal 4-way between Dunn, O'Reilly, Knight, and Ciampa like we knew, but that the winner would be the new NXT champion. Fine and well. Get it done, over, said, and done with. We hear from all 4 of those men, and then we go to our ring for our opening matchup, and it is Braun Breaker, a.k.a. Rick Steiner's son, approaching LA Knight, and he challenges him. Knight accepts, and that's how we get our opening match. Now, there were reports that Braun Breaker was going to be known as Rex Steiner, which I think was a fantastic name. But whatever the case may be, he's now Braun Breaker. LA Knight makes his entrance, and then we get the entrance of Braun Breaker, who's coming out to a very Big Papa Pump-like entrance theme, and he's got that tri-colored singlet on, a la his dad, the dog-faced gremlin. The announcers throw little innuendos in there that, he is a Steiner, but they don't ever say it out loud. Knight connects with some right hands and puts Braun into the corner. Braun explodes out with a Steiner line and then a shoulder block. Breaker shows some amateur background and a surprising Knight, but the veteran fights back. Knight continues to outsmart the rookie and nails a corner neck breaker and follows it up with a choke on the ropes. Breaker fights back and hits a wicked-looking belly-to-belly. Breaker picks up LA Knight in a gorilla press slam and then brings him down into a power slam. Incredible transition, and picks up an upset victory at the 10-minute mark. Now, this kid has a future, and he reminds me of his dad so much. The look, the attitude, the downright ring presence. But I'm happy for him. We just killed one of the guys in our fatal 4-way later on tonight. Why? Moving on, Imperium will take on the team of Josh Briggs and Brian Jensen. Jensen is apparently a new recruit as well, but we know Josh Briggs. He's coming in from one of the WWE's smaller companies that they acquired a couple years back. And we get Jensen and Aker starting things off. Aker tried to overpower Jensen, but the new big man hit a devastating-looking slam. Briggs comes in, and Bartel is tagged in. Briggs leveled Bartel with a backbreaker and a slam combo, but Bartel used a heavy chop to take advantage. Briggs in the Tree of Woe and Imperium with kicks from each side of the ring in stereo. Jensen gets tagged back in and shows off his power a little and had Aker at bay. Imperium stopped and Imperium stopped the tag between Jensen and Briggs, leaving Jensen all alone. Excuse me. And Jensen tried to fight them all off, but Aker nails him with a double underhook suplex from the top rope, which looked devastating. And Imperium picks up a hard-fought victory against the two rookies at the 10-minute mark. There was a couple of moments in this matchup where I thought that Briggs and Jensen might actually pick up the win because we just saw what Braun Breaker did. But in any indication, what we got here was two guys showing off against two amazing talents like Imperium. So they didn't look bad. They didn't lose anything here by losing. They're relatively unknowns. If they continue to come up the card and grow, more power to them. Hit Row puts over B Fab before her scheduled match tonight. I hope she can wrestle because right now she's just been eye candy. We get B Fab versus Katrina Cortez, a masked luchador esque female wrestler. The first lady of Hit Row started things off with a nice looking leg sweep and followed it up with three right hands. Cortez reverses a rear naked choke and is looking to gain some momentum, but B Fab reversed her and gained a neck breaker from almost out of nowhere and picks up the win inside of 4 minutes. Now, this wasn't a thrilling match. There wasn't anything really great about it, but B Fab did prove that she can wrestle. She was pulling out moves that looked like they were kind of straight out of a video game. And I guess I've been calling them the Create a Wrestler crew for the last couple of months. I guess it's warranted. She still looked great in this match. Nate, if you could edit here, please. All right, sorry about that, Nate. We're going to restart now at the 2015 mark. Backstage, from backstage, Legado del Fantasma interrupts the celebration, and Electra lets B-Fab know that she's coming for her, to which B-Fab replied, "Why wait? The boys hold the ladies apart," and I like the way this is turning out. I like that we've got now a 4-on-4 of luchadors and, Hit Row. Let's see where it goes. If this leads us to Survivor Series with something big in our hands, I'm grateful for it. If not, then I guess we got to see what's about to happen. Backstage, we see Johnny Gargano, Odyssey Jones, and Cameron Grimes talking about the upcoming wedding of Indy Hartwell and Dexter Loomis. I've been waiting for this one. It's been a great storyline so far. And in walks Austin Theory. He's finally back. He's been gone for weeks. Said he was not going to miss the wedding of Indy Hartwell. And he's brought along a friend, and it's Damian Priest, the United States champion. And Priest wants to gamble with Cameron Grimes on the wedding? Ooh. Carmelo Hayes makes his way out to the ring, and he's got a new bodyguard, and his name is Trick Williams. Hayes says that with his guaranteed title shot, he needs someone to watch his back. They're interrupted by Duke Hudson, but Williams and Hayes takes him out to further prove their point. So apparently we're going to see a little bit of a feud going further with Hudson and Hayes and whoever this new guy, Trick Williams, who had a really crazy looking spinning pump kick, which was out of this world. So I'm curious to see where this is going. JC and Gigi are ready to unveil the new Mandy Rose. Okay, I'm interested. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are taking on Carter and Caterizano, the Botch crew. This was strictly set up to reveal Mandy Rose's new look. Carter and Carizano took it to Gigi and JC for about 3 minutes. Rose ran down, caused the DQ, and the match was over. After they beat down by Rose, Gigi, and JC, we get our first look at the new brunette, Mandy Rose. Nothing that special. We go to commercial. When we come back, we find out it is now a 6-woman tag with Saraya added to Carter and Caterizano, and Gigi and Jane being getting Mandy Rose added to their team. And this was a botch fest. A lot of hair pulling, punching, and missed moves that looked really bad. I'm sorry I can't go more into depth about this, guys. It was just really not good, and it was because of everyone involved, not just one. Mandy Rose and company got the win in 12 minutes, and this match really should not have gotten restarted. If this was, as I said, strictly done to unveil the new Mandy Rose, oh, she went back to her real hair color. It was done poorly, and it was a bad look. William Regal lets us know that Kyle O'Reilly has been taken out of the Fatal 4-Way by Dunn and Holland, a planned attack, and that newcomer Von Wagner saved Kyle O'Reilly, thus getting his spot in the Fatal 4-Way. Braun Breaker beat LA Knight. Can we give him his spot too? If we're just giving out spots here, William. Holland then goes on to take on Drake Maverick. It's a 4-minute squash match where Holland showed off his brute force on Maverick. Nice to see that they're still building Ridge to be a monster. And it was really good here. Then we go to a promo for Tony D'Angelo, who is apparently coming to NXT. This is a mafia type gimmick. That's going to put some butts in the seats, ladies and gentlemen. Then we go to tag team action. The Creed brothers of the Diamond Mine taking on the Jobbers of NXT. They never said their names. The Creeds used a mixture of clotheslines and high angle suplexes to put these two guys away quick. 5 minutes, and it was a masterpiece. Why do I say it was a masterpiece? Because again, if you're building monsters, you want them to go through unnamed guys quickly. You don't want them stalling for 15 minutes and playing with the guy and then risking botching or looking bad. You want them to rush through them. That really low-angled clothesline that this guy named Jules of the Creed brothers delivers, devastating. Just as devastating as JBL's clothesline from hell, only on a lower angle. Amazing. Creed brothers pick up the win. Good on them. We got introduced to Ivy Nile, who is the newest member of the Diamond Mine. Malcolm Bivens is putting together a powerhouse team tonight from the Creed brothers, along with Roderick Strong. And I have to say, I was not a fan of Diamond Mine when it first started. I'm still not totally sold on them. But if we get introduced to newcomers like the Creed brothers, then by all means, keep it up. Kushida interrupts, and next week we get the match made. Roderick Strong taking on Kushida for the Cruiserweight title. So let's go. And it is main event match time because the wedding is our main event, but this is our main event match. Pete Dunne taking on LA Knight, taking on Von Wagner, taking on Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Heavyweight Championship, vacated by Samoa Joe. And Knight starts us off in control, taking out Ciampa with a boot, Dunne with the shoulder block, and a slam to Von Wagner. Wagner made a comeback, but was cut off by Dunne, who is then turned around and begins to use joint manipulation on the big guy to keep him down. Tommaso Ciampa and Dunne exchanged shots, and Ciampa took over the advantage. Wagner fought back and nailed Dunne with a clothesline and a flatliner to take out LA Knight. Match broke down all around the ring, and we got left with Ciampa and Knight inside the ring. Ciampa hit the fairy tale ending on Knight, picks up the win at the 17-minute mark, and new NXT champion Goldie is finally home in the arms of LA Knight, in the arms of Tommaso Ciampa. I would have liked it to have been longer than 17 minutes. I would have liked them to gotten 30 minutes, in my opinion. But I understand there's more to come in the show. And it just seems like there was more story to tell. But maybe we'll move on from here. Who knows? We get highlights from what's going down between Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis, leading to us getting into this wedding. Lumis is in the ring, and Johnny Gargano leads Hartwell down the aisle. The ring is filled with tons of NXT superstars. And did the priest just say Dexter Lumis's middle name is Gaylord? It's what I heard, but apparently Sport Jacket Guy had the rings, not Austin Theory. And now we can begin. Priest says if anyone objects, that they should speak now. And Dexter Lumis turns around and reveals that he's got a hatchet in his jacket, if anybody does. This is gold as usual, ladies and gentlemen. These vows have been sweet and hilarious from Indy Hartwell. Dexter then does his vows, and it's just a thumbs up, to which the priest did not seem to care for, so Dexter put him to sleep. Who's going to ordain? Who's going to oversee this wedding? Well, Beth Phoenix is here, ladies and gentlemen, and she's got a license to be an ordained minister as of last night. So Beth goes ahead and asks Indy if she takes Dexter. Indy says yes. And then she goes ahead and asks Dexter the same. She says, well, can we just take a thumbs up? And Dexter stops her. And Dexter Loomis finally speaks and says, I do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I now pronounce to you Mr. and Mrs. Dexter Loomis. This, by far, in my opinion, was the best wedding that we have had since Macho Man and Elizabeth. It was funny. It was entertaining. And the whole lead up to this was great. I do hope that we get more of it in the future, but if not, they did all they could with it. To end the show, Braun Breaker and Tommaso Ciampa congratulate each other on their wins, and Braun Breaker takes a look at the NXT title and then shakes Ciampa's hands, and NXT 2.0 comes to a close. I will say this. They tried. From a wrestling standpoint, the good outweighed the bad. From a backstage standpoint, the good outweighed the bad. They kept up with some of the storylines, such as Index and the wedding. We got a new world heavyweight champion in Tommaso Ciampa. Braun Breaker, Rex Steiner, call him what you will, was fantastic. The Creed brothers were great. So for now, I will allow NXT to stay on our show. And I will continue to promote them and talk about what I see. But if things get weird, just know I have an ejector seat and I'm willing to hit the button, because I will not stick around for any of Vince McMahon's oiled up fat guys and dick jokes like we used to get on Raw. I can't handle it anymore. I'm too old for this shit. And I'm ready to eject from all of WWE shows. I only watched part of Raw because Big E won the title. I haven't even watched the whole episode yet. I watched SmackDown, but SmackDown is the entertaining of the two. So we're going to have to wait and see. Nate, give me just a second. I'm going to take another quick minute. All right, sorry about that, Nate. A lot of allergies and things. We're going to come back at 3:35, 3:55. So now moving on to AEW Dynamite. JR welcomes us because it's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. Well, no, you got to love JR. It is Wednesday night for Dynamite. I love him, but he really needs some help. I think maybe they need to get somebody in that earphone and let him know what's going on sometimes. CM Punk joins the commentary team, and then we go to the ring for our opener, and it is Adam Cole taking on Frankie Kazarian. Cole throws Kaz for a loop with a big right hand, which sends him to the outside. Kaz turns it around with a stunner on the top rope, but Adam snaps back with a knee strike to the jaw. The fight continues back and forth, leading to both exchanging right hands and elbows. Cole finally hits a Shining Wizard to the back of the head, picks up the win at the 12-minute mark. Great opening matchup. Adam Cole to go from just 3 weeks ago on NXT to now here on AEW Dynamite is phenomenal. And you know what? He's actually getting to be himself. So by all means, Keep it up. Cole then grabs the mic and challenges Christian and Jurassic Express to a 6-man tag next week and says the Super Click is back. That is him and the Young Bucks. That's definitely a 6-man match I'd like to see. Backstage, Fuego del Sol challenges Miro for a matchup Friday night on Rampage for the TNT title with a little extra wager. He wants to put his car on the line to sweeten the deal for Miro. Going to have to wait and see if the Redeemer accepts the challenge. MJF comes out and wants to rub in last week's promo just a little bit more and spread some salt in the wounds. He pokes fun at Brian Pillman again, and this brings out Brian Pillman Jr., who surprises MJF out of nowhere and almost takes Wardlow's head off. Backstage, JR then hyped up Brian Jr. in a pre-recorded promo that they were having, saying that it's time for Brian to stand up for his family and take MJF out next week in Queens. Brian lets JR know that he's ready. I'm liking where this storyline continues to go. I said it last week, they could feed this off of Dark Side of the Ring the whole way. And Brian Pillman Jr. getting exposure is great in my book. Jungle Boy, Christian, and Luchasaurus then accept the challenge of Adam Cole for next week on Rampage. And we go to the ring for our next matchup. FTR taking on the mixed match team of Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. Both of their partners, their brothers, are injured. So they've come together. And the High Flyers try to use their speed, but Cash and Jax are keeping them grounded. Cash with the low drop kick and then a headbutt stuns Martin. Dante fights off the double team and makes the tag to Sydal, who gains control over FTR. Double springboard splash to the outside onto FTR from Sydal and Martin. Dante fights off the double team for a bit, but then hits a big flip and right into the big rig of FTR, who picks up the 3 after a hard-fought 12-minute match. Both teams showed up and showed off here. Excellent to see. You know, when you get a mixed match tag team, you never know what you're going to get. But I think that Sydal and Martin did a fantastic job. Archer and Suzuki are then up, and they talk about last week's match with Moxley. Archer says that it was unfair and it was very disrespectful for Suzuki. Archer challenges Mox and Kingston to a matchup next week in Queens on Dynamite, a tag match, and that's going to be a banger, ladies and gentlemen. Suzuki Gun versus Moxley and Kingston, that's strong style through and through. Malachi Black then arrives in the arena, calls out Rosario Dawson, who's sitting in the front row and wearing a Nightmare Family shirt. What the hell? While he is approaching, Cody Rhodes is coming and charging down the stairs from the arena floor. Dawson attacks Black, and this sets up Cody, which leads to both men brawling around the arena. If this feud leads to what we got from Dusty and Kevin Sullivan way back when, I'm all for it. I'm here. I'm invested. I want it. But if this is going to lead to Cody getting another win and then the feud's done, I'm sorry. Cody, you need to better manage yourself and the guys that you're booking against you. But in any indication, it was a great segment. It was great to see Cody back. Dark Order continues to have their problems backstage. And when we come back to the arena, we've got Dan Lambert screaming his head off in the middle of the ring. Thank God, though, Jericho interrupted him, and Lambert throws a spaz fit. Jericho may have a hit on his hands with fast-faced dipshit, yeah. Jericho bests Lambert on the mic, and we get Jericho and Hager versus Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page next week. I can't wait. If Jericho and Hager don't pick up the win, I won't be upset, because that means we're going to continue to see more of the Inner Circle get involved with this American Top Team program. And if Jericho can continue to shut down Lambert on the mic, thank God. We find out why the Gun Club turned on Paul White last week, and nobody cared. Jade then took on Layla Hirsch. Layla surprised me here and actually did the same to Jade. Hirsch sends her bigger opponent to the outside and lands a suicide dive on Mark Sterling. Layla cannot pull any kind of power, though, over Jade. Jane lands in some bad-looking right hands. Jane continues to look awkward, and Layla tries to look lock in a rear naked choke. Layla finally lands a German suplex, but only gets a 2 count. Hirsch missed a moonsault. Jade hits a pump kick and then a glam slam for the win. 10 minutes was too long for this one, in my opinion. Layla Hirsch looked amazing. She actually looked great in this matchup, but Jade Cargill continues to show her weakness in that ring. They need to let her go for like 2 months off of television, train her a little better, and maybe bring her back before she hurts somebody, or just continues to make herself look bad. Because all we're going to get is she's eventually going to get a women's title run, and we're all going to be really unhappy about it. Andrade explains why he beat down Chavo last Friday after his match with Pac. Apparently, Andrade wants to prove himself to everyone in AEW, and I don't blame him. Taz and Hook get up in CM Punk's face. He gets up from commentary, and they are a distraction long enough for Powerhouse Hobbs to attack from behind. Hobbs chokeslams Punk through the announcer's table, which doesn't break, and Taz and company walk away rather slowly. I can get behind Punk versus Hobbs. I hope Hook isn't too involved a little bit too much, because he's really too involved as it is. But if it does lead to a Ricky Stark versus CM Punk match, okay. Darby Allin then took on Shawn Spears. I mentioned we would talk about this later, and here it is. Shawn Spears attacks immediately and takes Darby with a knee and right hands, which sends Darby to the outside. Spine first into the steel steps goes Allin, and Spears is showing his killer instinct. Spears tries to hit a knee to the head on the steel steps, but Darby moves it just in time. Blanchard causes a distraction long enough for Spears to send Allin headfirst onto the apron. Darby fought back and delivered a huge suicide dive to the outside, sends Spears back in, lands the coffin drop, and picks up the win in 10 minutes. Both guys came to fight, and that's exactly what this was. It was a fight. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight, and I enjoyed seeing it. I was kind of hoping that we'd see more from Shawn Spears here, but FTR attacks after the match, and we see Tully Blanchard deliver a very weak-looking chair shot. I understand, though. The man is over 60. Sting turns around and is going after Blanchard, but Cash and Dax take him out. They leave him laying after a spike pile driver and wipe the paint off of Sting, symbolizing that he is just a normal man. So, we then go to pre-recorded comments from Bryan Danielson, but then he is welcomed into the arena live with Tony Schiavone. So why the pre-recorded? I don't get it. Before Bryan can get a word out, Don Callis and Kenny Omega interrupt. Callis goes on and on and on until Bryan finally asks him to shut up so he can speak to Kenny Omega. Danielson says he doesn't want a title shot. He just wants Omega one-on-one to find out who the best is. Danielson calls Omega out, and he wants an answer, and Kenny finally gives him his answer. Yes. When? When, goddammit? We've got the best bout machine versus the American Dragon. It needs to happen. I'd rather them wait for pay-per-view, but I guess with no title on the line, they could do it whenever they damn well please. Miro accepts Fuego del Sol's match and comes off looking like he's trying to be Roman Reigns a little bit. He calls himself the Redeemer, and that Fuego del Sol's family is going to love him for what he does to him next week or this week on Rampage. Little awkward, but that's fine. We then find out that it will be Bryan Danielson taking on Kenny Omega non-title next week at AEW Grand Slam, which is a Dynamite episode from Queens, New York, at Met Stadium, Arthur Ashe Stadium. Call it what you will. Great. The quicker, the better. If it's not for the title, like I said, they could do it whenever they feel like it. And then we go to our ring for our main event, Moxley and Kingston taking on 2.0. Mox and Eddie just took Parker and Lee out at every turn. It was a 6-minute squash that saw a killer-looking clothesline Saito suplex combo to get the win in about 4 minutes. And I can't wait till next week against Suzuki Gun, but apparently I'm not going to have to, because speak of the devil, here comes Minoru Suzuki. He makes his way to the ring with a proper entrance, and the fan actually cheering for him this time gives Mox a smile. Archer pulls Kingston out of the ring, and this leaves Suzuki and Moxley to fight on the other side. A true war going on between all four men. Suzuki looked to set Mox up for a pile driver on the table, Mox fights back. The show ends with all four still fighting and leaving me waiting anxiously for next week. Fans, I will say this. AEW Dynamite continues to deliver, as does Rampage. NXT is trying. It is a great time to be a wrestling fan. If you missed any of these three shows, go back, find them on YouTube, find them on demand, do whatever you can. Don't let my allergies and coughing deter you, because I assure you, wrestling is alive and well, and we are due for a nice big boom. So if you're ready, I know I am ready. Let's get ready for it. That's going to do it for us tonight. There will be no What Grinds My Gears, because next week with my State of Wrestling address, it's going to be about things that grind my gears throughout the entire show. So I won't put you through a full show and then whatever I'm going to do on this show. Thank you for joining me. Have a great evening, and I will see you next week on If You Smell what the Arch is Cooking.